Welcome to another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, and it's another Super Bowl 60 preview edition of the show as the countdown continues until we see Seattle and New England coming up on Sunday. Very much looking forward to that. Of course, we got a slew of different shows this week with a bunch of different guests, people that have been on the show before. Rob Vino's going to be on this week. Of course, we're going to get Trevor Harris and Davis Alexander's thoughts, Philip Nelson, the usual suspects. We did a show already with Mark Leggio, kicker for my Hamilton Ticats here in the CFL. We talked with him about the Super Bowl. And now here on this edition of the show, we have a first-time guest joining us. He was also a kicker in his day with the Cincinnati Bearcats in college football years ago, and joining us now for the first time on the Football Frenzy to talk about his football background and Super Bowl 60, of course, Ryan Jones on the show with us. Ryan, how are you? Things good?
I'm good, yeah. Ian, thanks for having me and excited to do this.
No doubt. So talk about the football background, high school first, then getting into college and getting recruited and landing in Cincinnati with the Bearcats.
Yeah, grew up in great state of Indiana, so obviously it's a basketball state. Went to a high school.
Not anymore. Football's taken over, baby.
Yeah,
Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah. I was gonna
National
say,
champs.
So that just recently changed. But yeah, I went to a high school that didn't have, at least especially prior to myself when I played, there wasn't a strong history of high school football. So I think the last guy to go Division I before me was Mike Kovaleski, who played for Notre Dame, I think in the 80s. And then another fun side note, the coach prior to IU's current coach now, Tom Allen, is from my hometown. So, but, my Steve Alford is from hometown. So the fun one is, I think it's like Texas for football, but for Indiana, like the top 25 field houses for basketball, Indiana has like 20 of them. And I know it goes back and forth, but at least to what I know, my high school is the largest field house in the country. And I think we see like 10,000 for high school basketball. So, it was a basketball school. So football, kind of where the kicking started, I guess. That started early on, even in Pee Wee football. And then I stopped because I played so many sports, and soccer was the main focus. That was year round for me. And middle school, 8th grade, they just I was the kid. This is the normal story where you have the strongest leg. Hey, come out and try kicking a football. So I did that. And that was it for really being self-taught. And it was all just similar to what I did with soccer. It wasn't bad. I think at that time I was hitting like 45-yard field goals. We fast forward into high school, and my 4 years, like I said, and things definitely changed once I left, but my 4 years were rough. I think we won 2 games in my 4 years of high school. So,
It was rough.
Wow. Yeah. It was slow with the high school side. Still great memories and great friendships, but I would say where my kicking kind of really came from, or in my recruiting help and stuff like that, was the Cole's kicking. So that's due to the owner, Jamie Cole, and all his group of guys that have been doing this, I think, since like it's 25 years or so now. And they've been working with kids all the way up from middle school to, the high school age, college, and then, NFL guys, UFL, CFL guys. So, they've built their legacy and, continue to do great things. And I've had the kind of lucky opportunity where I am now in New York. I do small group camps working with young athletes in New York State and Canada and the surrounding areas, surrounding states, and to try to help those kids get better and help them with their process through high school. But my junior year, I guess, is really what helped as well. I hit a 52-yarder in a game my junior year of high school, and that's kind of when I noticed everything really explode. I went to a showcase in Texas.
It's one of those deals where you may have been an afterthought. Then all of a sudden, this video footage surfaces of you nailing a 52-yard field goal in high school. Then all of a sudden, college scouts, you've got their attention, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the crazy thing is, it's social media this was 2013, so social media wasn't really crazy then either. So, but yeah, it was kind of that situation where, not only that, I go to a showcase in December of my junior year, in Texas through Coles, and I did well, and I got invited to the Underclassmen Challenge, which is the top juniors all around the country. They do like kind of 5 showcases in each region. So I went out to Florida, and like 2 weeks later, and Jamie and his staff, they picked they do the selections for the Under Armour All-American kickers, punters, and long snappers. So that was during that time. I think that was the year Leonard Fournette was in his senior year before he went to LSU. So, but yeah, so I went to that Underclassmen Challenge, did well, and rankings, I think I went up to I was 15th in the country for my class. And that's kind of when it all exploded. And then that spring and that summer was when I started going to colleges and universities and kicking at camps and stuff like that. And Cincinnati offered me, after I'd kicked out of camp, offered me right after, and I didn't commit right away because I still went through a couple other universities to kick there and stuff like that. And then, fast forward into my high school senior year, I got hurt from soccer actually my senior year, so I was out most of the season, but I ended up committing to Cincinnati. And then it's funny now, I saw it today, 11 years ago was my national signing day to Cincinnati. So it's kind of crazy, but yep. So I guess that's a good glimpse of how everything happened during high school to Cincinnati and committing there.
There you go, and you end up with Cincinnati. So I'm trying to think now, 2000 and what would that have been, 15, 16?
15, 16, yep, would have been my first 2 years.
Definitely you were there when Fickle was there. I know that. You were definitely there when Fickle. Were you there when Tuberville was still there?
I had Tuberville's last 2 years, and then Fick's first 3 years.
Because I know it was Tuberville before Fickle. So you were there just at the tail end of him, and then, of course, you were there once they went to and hired Luke Fickle. Okay, good.
Yeah. So that was a great experience and everything like that as well. So, but yeah, Tubbs' last 2 years and Fick's first 3, and I thought those 3 were great, but obviously what happened after I left was even better. So,
yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Of course, Zach Collaros, who was a quarterback here with the Ticats and the CFL, has had a great career. He was a Cincinnati Bearcat as well. He played there when Brian Kelly was the coach. That's a real long time ago.
So he probably would have been there like with the Kelsey brothers in as well, right?
Yes, Travis Kelce was there with Brian Kelly as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
Yep, that would have been. And I'm just seeing this now. Freaking Zach Taylor, who's head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, was offensive coordinator under Tuberville with Cincinnati Bearcats when you were there.
He was the OC because he's the one that recruited Desmond Ridder to Cincinnati. And then just recently in preseason, Desmond was with Cincinnati with the Bengals in preseason and stuff as well. So, but Yep.
There was another Ticat Bearcat connection. He wasn't with the Ticats for a while, but he was in their training camp. He was on the roster for a little bit. He doesn't play football anymore, but Hayden Moore was on that team, wasn't he, with you, right?
Hayden would have been 15, 16, and 17 because he played in the Military Bowl, which was my third year, 2017. So, Fick's first year military. No, wait. Sorry, I apologize. No, Hayden actually would have been 2018 would have been Hayden's last season.
Right.
So, that was Military Bowl in 2018. So, I was with Hayden for 4 years then. Yep.
Now, you guys, I know you were on the 2015 team, and I'm seeing it right now in front of me. That actually was a solid year. You had, I believe, a winning record. You ended up playing you got smoked in the Hawaii Bowl, I should say. 7-6. But I'm sure the experience, the
experience was great.
Going out there was awesome, right?
Yeah. No, I think you get 7 or 8 days really at no cost to go out to Hawaii. So that was a great experience. Yeah, that was fun. So, and even I remember a practice was over at, it was at Marcus Mariota's high school. I remember that. That was awesome. And then I think we were playing in where the old Pro Bowl used to be.
Right.
When they moved it. It was in Hawaii when they moved it to Orlando now, I think. But so that stadium, that was a great experience overall. So practicing was fun, everything like that. That was awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. It sure would be. It was one of these deals where, we would have wanted to play better in the game. But, hey, the vacation and getting to Hawaii and enjoying that beautiful, scenery and obviously the great
Oh
weather
yeah.
and the sunshine and the warmth, because it's always around Christmas. Christmas Eve
Yep.
annually is the Hawaii Bowl. Believe me, you're ready for some warm weather around that
Oh
time of
yeah.
year, and you get it when you go to Hawaii. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah. No, I can't complain there. It was awesome. So great experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So overall, how was the experience, the college experience? You were there 2015, 2016. You had a down year. You're
Yep.
4-8. That ended up to be in the coaching change was made. Luke Fickell came on board in 2017. 2018, that was a phenomenal year for your team. You ended up going 11-2. You were in the Military Bowl, and you had a big win against Virginia Tech that
Yep.
season in the Military Bowl. So that was a very successful year overall for you. That 2018 season, just from looking back on it, that's the stand. And 2019 was pretty damn good too. AAC championship game, you got to it. You lost to Memphis, but still a very successful season, 11-3. So those back-to-back 11-win seasons for you guys, Ryan, with you and the Bearcats, 18 and 19. That must have been fun. That must have been enjoyable. How big of a piece of you of the team were you from a kicking standpoint for those two good seasons there?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, those last two seasons were great. And to go back to, even just that 2017 season, I mean, you look at the record and it wasn't, what you would want it to be from a player, and just, I guess, like the whole aspect of everybody that's part of the team, coaches and staff and stuff like that. But, I think that was the year that's that rebuilding year where Coach Fick is bringing in his culture and, setting his standards and stuff like that. So I look back at it, and you wish you were part of those years after when I was gone. But also, I guess the weird thing to say is somebody had to kind of set the foundation of what that program was in 2017 to get to where, that 2018 season, that happened. And like you said, great win going into playing Virginia Tech in the Military Bowl. And then that's obviously just a great boost going into the off season. And then 2019, same thing as well, right? And that season, I think we ended top 25, and then that whole season, 2019, we were top 25 and working our way up and stuff. But from the kicking aspect, it was, I played my role. It was, did kickoffs those 4 years. And then 2017, 2017 towards the end of the season, took over some of the field goal role and stuff like that, as well as the end of 2018 there. So that was kind of the role, was the kickoff role. They brought in an Aussie, which Fick, that was what they did at Ohio State. So when he came to Cincinnati, they brought over a great punter that would end up being I think he's a 2-time All-American. Went to the Reese's Senior Bowl and stuff like that. Had a great career at Cincinnati. And so I kind of backed him up. So I was a combo guy, but I did field goals and kickoff right-footed, but I punted left-footed. So it was interesting because I wasn't left-handed. But yeah, that was kind of, like I said, I played my role and filled in. Kickoff was the main thing, and field goal, I had my time doing that over my last 3 years and stuff like that. So, yeah.
All right. So when the college experience ended with Cincinnati, what was your vision at that time? Where did you envision going from that point?
Yeah. I honestly, I wanted just to give a shot towards, the NFL. There's nothing that says you can't. I knew, the way I put it was my resume wasn't the most appealing. So, I had to kind of work just to go to, combines and stuff like that to try to almost build a post-college resume that showed I can compete. So I went to a Gary Zahner camp, which he is a retired NFL special teams coach that he runs a lot of stuff out in Arizona.
I recognize the name. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I did that, and that was the other big thing too. It was going and competing against guys that had, great college careers, from the field goal. And it was really the field goal side as a whole that I was kind of lacking. So the kickoff side was there. But, outside of Zahner, this was in the beginning of Nick Novak as well. So when he started kind of his training, so I had kind of came across him, a guy. So unfortunately, my my draft year would have been COVID. So that kind of just obviously, just like everybody else in the world, kind of threw a little a mix up to what they were doing right now and in their lives and stuff like that. So had to make it adjustments. And that year I lost my pro day, so I said, okay, I'll give it at least another year. So that following year, I like I said, I did Zonner prior to COVID, and then 2021 I started doing.
COVID didn't help you out either. That was a challenge too.
No, yeah, it didn't help because my thing was like I said, getting in front of scouts. How can I get in front of and show them that I can do this? So in 2021 in the spring, I went out to Arizona and did a combine that Novak ran the special teams part of it, and I won that from the field goal side. So we had stayed in communication, and he invited me out. He was doing like once a month combines for free agents. So he did an awesome thing where I had a buddy that I trained with that he's retired now from the NFL, but he was a practice squad guy for the Raiders, but he had some playing time with Houston. While Fairbairn was hurt with Carolina and Detroit as well. So he worked with Novak. So Novak would what he would do was he would get kind of the whole group. So the kicker, punter, long snapper, and they'd come out for a week and train together prior to going to camp and stuff like that. So like I said, I went out to Novak for 2 combines and did well. So the fun story, this is when Aubrey was before Aubrey signed with the UFL. So I have some photos with him just timing wise, we kicked together. So the field goal was great. I was charting 9 for 10 on field goal, and kickoffs were great as well. And, started to see some interest from teams and stuff like that. Even the positive, speaking to the Hamilton, my agent had kind of connected with one of their guys, and they wanted to do a workout because the biggest thing is, and I'm sure you know this, that there's only so many American roster spots
correct
they can use. So normally they're not going to waste them on a specialist. Now for me, I could do all 3 things. And the other thing that some people might not know, or I guess if you don't know the rules, I learned this actually and when you punt, a gunner or anybody that's on the punt team can't be within 10 yards of the returner before he touches the ball, correct?
Yeah.
So I wasn't like a big ball punter.
5 yards, within 5 yards.
Yeah. Oh, 5 yards. Okay. So I wasn't a big ball punter. I was kind of like my big ball what we'd say an A ball was a 42, 4-2, something like that, 45, 4-5. So, a little bit more lining the ball, but to where the gunners are able to stay full speed before they even get down to that, that 5-10 yard zone. So, but that was hard with the COVID times. It's hard to do workouts, especially like Canadian League and stuff like that. So, like I said, I stayed training through that with Novak, and there was some interest. And then going into that season of 2021, normally especially with COVID, but most of the time you'll see like your kickers that are with the 32 guys that are with teams. And then normally like maybe there's a pool of guys that kind of bounce around, do workouts. If a kicker's struggling in a game, they'll bring in a couple for a workout, and maybe that guy gets signed to the practice squad, or they don't sign anybody, but they say, hey, if my guy continues to struggle, so-and-so that just came in out of this group of 4 or 5 guys did well. We like him. We know we can call him back to come in. So, I think it was following kind of 2021, 2022 did a little bit as well. But for me, it was like, okay, I did the pro day as well. I guess I forgot that. I did the pro day of 2021 in the spring, and that went well as well for kickoffs and field goals. So kind of the way I saw it is I did everything I could. I've performed well, and I guess I've helped my resume, because that was kind of the big thing with my agent was, we've got to figure out how we can make your resume look good, take what you had from college, but post-college, what can we, make happen? So, but it was just something, okay, like I can keep trying, it might change. Maybe the way I'd look back at it now is like, because the UFL, that stuff really started getting big, and Canadian stuff.
And the timing was just kind of fucked for you, unfortunately, and just shitty because COVID hits right after you're done college. That stunts the process. UFL and the spring leagues really don't kick it into high gear until 2021-22, and by then It's almost
That's
like
what.
that window of opportunity has passed by. It's just tough timing, really.
Yeah, timing was bad. So if I could go back and maybe I'd give it another year to try, like you said, with the spring leagues or UFL, maybe even Canadian still. But at the end of the day, I look back and kind of the one of so many, or not really, no, one of a small amount of people that get an opportunity to play college football at that level that I did and have the great success and be with great coaches and staff members and get an education and friendships that last a lifetime. And then even what I did for the few years of, I always say like the NFL circuit and the guys I met, like the guy I was talking about that was with the Raiders first in that COVID year. He was one of my groomsmen in my wedding this past July.
Oh, wow.
And he lives in Germany now. So, and he's a great guy and stuff like that. So, I look back and, I got to do a lot of things and meet a lot of people that football, if I didn't have football, I wouldn't have had these relationships and these opportunities. So,
Yeah,
got
new
to be grateful
friendships
for
based
that.
on the game, the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the great thing about playing team sports is you're going to form friendships for life with a lot of
Yeah.
people that you
Yeah.
come across in your experiences. And
Yeah.
that's one of the great things about it. There's no question about that. So
Yeah.
currently, you're still involved with a lot of training and teaching with kicking, correct?
Yeah. Yep. So like I said, I now going into this spring will be my 4th year with Coles running, the small showcases or the small camps here in Syracuse, New York. And then there's a little bit each year where I go to maybe his showcases for the eastern side in Pennsylvania. And I've been down to Florida to do a couple as well to help out in Tennessee. So that's kind of the stuff with Coles. And that was my biggest way to stay within football and just keep doing, what I love and trying to help kids with the process and give them knowledge and tools that, I didn't get in high school. Right. So try to just help. My biggest thing is give them kind of that, help them with that stepping stone from the high school to the college level. And then I help coach special teams here at a local school called CBA Syracuse. So Christian Brothers Academy. And I was lucky enough the offensive coordinator here, reached out to him and we got to talking and he said, they would love to have me and he had me meet the head coach. And this goes back to 2023, that spring. And, up to this point now, I've been able to coach 4 kickers, 2 of them being punters. One went to college at Cortland, which is a powerhouse Division III program here in New York State and to the country. Had another one that just finished up. And then I've got 2 young kids that are juniors going into their senior years this upcoming fall. But grateful for the staff. And, we're back-to-back state championships in New York. Haven't lost a game yet in my coaching career, to say the least as well. So it's been cool. It's been a great experience to be part of a staff that it's crazy to see in a good way, a high school staff. It's very similar to, as close as it can be from high school to college. But there is a lot of guys that are on the staff that played at our OC played at Syracuse. One of our both our DB coaches played at, one was Boston College, one was Brown. We've got a running back coach that played at Louisville and then played in the NFL for 7 years. And our head coach has been coaching for 30 years. Our DC is has a mind for the game of football and loves it. And then, we had a D-line coach that coached in the NFL, was at Baylor when RG3 was there with Syracuse prior to coming to us. And then he just got a job at Southern Alabama. So we have staff too that has played at, the highest level and even coached at the highest level that is able to bring knowledge, together and build great game plans. And honestly, just an off season, put together stuff that's going to help these kids be successful, off the field and on the field.
Great stuff. Great story. I love to hear it, and everything from your background. Like I said, with my love for sports and being able to talk to different players, pro and college, to be able to hear about their experiences, good and bad, and ups and downs, and just the journey. And it is a journey in so many aspects. It's really, really fun to hear about it. We're going to transition because I know a lot of our audience, they're bettors, and they watch me not for sports wagering advice. So from that standpoint, we're going to talk a little NFL Super Bowl. Just overall, how much NFL have you watched this year, and overall, just your thoughts about these two teams, just an overall thought about what you've seen from both the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots coming into this Super Bowl matchup on Sunday.
Yeah. So I would say every Sunday this fall would have been we would have meetings in the morning for football, coaches meetings to talk about the game of that week and then going into game plan for the following week. And then the rest of the day was meant for, dual screen and watching NFL football. So that was kind of what it was. And obviously my wife is a massive Bills fan. So I don't have a favorite NFL
Naturally,
team.
you had to console her after that Denver game. Yep.
Yes. Oh, yes. So because we were sad because it's so weird because it's not that football is over, but like you feel like football is over. You're like, oh, I don't really care anymore. But I still did care because I'm like, okay, like I still want to watch football. So, but yeah, so I never had college football was my sport to watch growing up, and then football. I mean, NFL we did like, but we didn't love it as much as college. So, I always say now it's like I just want to watch good football, and then now I like to watch guys that I played with or I trained with. I was kind of a fan favorite of them, but yeah, Sunday was meant for football, and my wife, I don't want to say I had to convince her. She's the same way. Even if the Bills aren't playing, she's just let's hang out. We hang out with our dog, and we just watch football every Sunday, Monday night, Thursday night as well. That's kind of what we set aside the time for. So yeah. And then, I think you had talked about the Seattle part now in New England as well.
Yeah, this game should be interesting. We got Seattle, New England, Super Bowl 60. Seattle, 4.5-point favorites, 45 the total. One thing I want to point out with the matchup here that's very fascinating is the fact that these are two defenses that, we have to respect. We have to obviously give them credit for what they've been able to do. I know I mentioned this earlier in the week in some other shows. New England hasn't given up a 40-yard rusher in the playoffs. No running back has ran for 40 or more yards against New England's defense. And Seattle only gave up 55 rushing yards to Blake Corum and the Rams. Other than that, every other running back they faced didn't even get 50 rushing yards. So the way I see it, Ryan, is both of these teams are great against the run. They've shown it in the playoffs. And this actually could come down to which quarterback's able to make more plays throwing the ball. And when you look at this matchup here, Drake May was and the Patriots offense was very conservative against Denver. They had the lead in most of the second half. The conditions were horrific for throwing the football with the snow and the wind in Denver 2 weeks ago. That probably played a role in it. But I think there's going to be an onus today. If we're going to win this football game, Drake May is going to have to make some things happen. Because it's not going to be easy to get the Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson duo going on the ground for New England when you're facing a team that's number one in terms of rush yards per game allowed, or rush yards per play allowed against the run, which Seattle is. Number one as far as yards per rush allowed this season. No one gave up fewer yards per carry this year than the Seattle Seahawks defense. So to be able to run on them will be difficult. And then you counter that to New England, that ever since they got Milton Williams back, their best defensive lineman late in the season, he's been healthy in the playoffs. Suddenly it's been hard to run on them. Ask Amarion Hampton for the Chargers. Ask Woody Marks and Nick Chubb for the Texans. They couldn't run the football very much against New England's run defense. Denver didn't really have a whole lot of success running it against New England a couple weeks ago. So my thought process here is it's not going to be easy for the running backs to get going. So the screen game might be involved. Using the running backs, to slow down the pass rush could be something in this game because we know Seattle can get heat on opposing quarterbacks, and we've certainly seen the New England defensive front and their pass rush look a lot better and stronger here in the playoffs. So while the running backs may not be involved, and well, I shouldn't say involved, they're going to still try to run the ball, but I don't know how successful they'll be. I expect both running backs maybe to be receiving targets for their respective quarterbacks, especially on the Seattle side, because we already saw it play out this way against the Rams in the NFC Championship, where Sam Darnold was throwing the ball in the screen game to Kenneth Walker quite a bit. So I can tell you already that, and I've mentioned this, I know already, and people will be sick of it if they watch every show that I record, but I'll mention it again anyway. Kenneth Walker over receiving yards, I think, is a great prop thought for this game, considering that I think he's going to have a harder time running in between the tackles. Sam Darnold will use him as a safety valve and a place to dump off the football, try to beat the blitz and the pass rush that New England brings. So that's definitely a prop that I am interested in here for this game. I think both teams struggle against the tight end. That's something to point out. So this could be a game where for Seattle, A.J. Barner, for New England, Hunter Henry, the two tight ends could be involved and could be productive. So whether it's receptions and or receiving yards props for the tight ends on the respective teams, that could be something to consider here for this game as well. And I also think, going back to my point about it being difficult to run the football, Ryan, for both of these teams, don't be surprised if Sam Darnold and Drake May have to put the ball in the air much more than you would think if they're not having success consistently moving the chains via the run game. So, to see Drake May's passing yards prop at a very manageable, very low 215 and 213 and a half, and Sam Darnold's passing yards prop at 225 and a half. We're not asking these guys to throw 250, 300, 350 yards. We're just asking to get a little bit into the 200s, which I think they're going to do if both of these teams struggle to run, as I think they might, with these two teams very good against the run. So I think the passing yards props to the over for both quarterbacks in this game, Drake May and Sam Darnold, may be worth a look here in this one. I like Seattle to win the football game, Ryan. I know I took the minus 220 on the money line. I didn't really love the idea of laying the 4.5 points. I would just rather pay the price and bet the money line and just ask them to win the game, because I think Seattle is a little bit the better team, a little bit the more well-rounded, deeper roster, and that's to take nothing away from New England, but I could still see it being a tight game. New England is so well coached by Mike Vrabel that, in a neutral field in Santa Clara, I still have, even though I like Seattle to win the game, I have a difficult time laying 4.5 points and saying for sure they're going to win, by a 5+ point margin. New England is here for a reason. They're playing their best football at the right time. But when push comes to shove, it's hard not to not overlook the fact that New England, weaker schedule. People have talked about it ad nauseum, the narrative of the weak schedule, and they didn't beat too many winning teams. And here's Seattle in that beast of an NFC West that they played in, that sent not one, not two, but 3 teams to the playoffs out of that one division, the NFC West. San Francisco made it, the LA Rams made it, and of course the Seattle Seahawks made it. So when push comes to shove, I like Seattle to win the game. I don't love the idea of laying 4.5. I took the money line. And those props I mentioned, I think are all they're all props I've bet already. And I think just based on game flow and the matchups on the field, they all make sense. I think it'll be tough to run. Running backs in the passing game are worth a look. And I think because the run game might be hard to achieve for both teams, Sam Darnold and Drake May both throwing the ball and maybe piling up more passing yards than you'd think in this game is something that I expect could be occurring here in this Super Bowl. Ryan, I'll throw it to you. Your thoughts, wherever you want to take this thing, your thoughts on the Super Bowl here.
Yeah. There's a lot of the stuff that you said, I honestly definitely agree with. And I think to go back to the beginning where you started is, I think where the battle starts is the trenches, the O-line and D-line. And I think that's I put some notes and stuff like that here because I've been looking for a bet to define over under for like team sack totals. So the one that I was definitely looking at was, let me see if I can find this. New England has given up 63 sacks this season, 3rd most in the NFL, and Seattle is tied for 7th in the NFL for most team sacks. So that's where I was back to trying to find something where I can find something, where there's a over under for, team total sacks. But I think that goes back to the trenches and, like you said, the run game. So, how can we find a balanced attack on offense for, throwing and running? And I think, like you said, it's both defenses are great run stop defenses. So it's like you want to try to keep that run game going. You might not get the big explosive plays, but even if it's chunk yardage to get you a couple yards and get you into second and medium, third and short where you have a realistic shot of obviously going and getting third and short and getting to the first down, right? Um, you know, extending the drive.
I was just going to say, a lot of times when it's 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 4 now, if a coach has it in his mind he's going to go for it on 4th down, he'll run it on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, try to get to 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and be able to do short yardage, quarterback sneak, the tush push, whatever the case may be. On 4th down. You're seeing that a lot these days in this day and age now where all the rage is going for it on 4th down at every reasonable opportunity.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, analytics are now coming into sports so much, and hey, based off of this situation at this time of the game, this is a score. Like, what's the percentage of doing this over this? So, but that's kind of where, like I said, going back to where you started, was the trenches. I think is huge now. Outside of trying to keep the run game going, but into the passing side, I know New England's got one of probably the best DBs in the league in Gonzalez, correct? So
and it's been a different defense since he came back, and on the defensive line, Milton Williams. You can make an argument those are the two best players on that defense, two of the best players for sure. They're that important to the team.
Yeah, and I think I think about the trenches as well, where like Vrabel is obviously a D lineman. He played in the league at that, so like I see like that goes back to like Fick played D line at Ohio State. And like that was just the mindset is you got to win the battle in the trenches. So that's one of the big parts for me in this game. And I love how you hit on as well. And that's what everybody talks about is when I really read about this is when Buffalo played in New England. And that's what they're talking about, the strength of schedule. Then I did some research there where I think Seattle, had the number one strength of schedule this season, and New England was. It looks like if they finished at number 10, and I go to that to where Seattle's losses came from San Fran, Tampa, and Los Angeles. And I think when they lost to Tampa was when Tampa was on their hot run early in the season.
Yeah.
And then you look at San Fran, I mean, when they had the pieces that were healthy, they're at the end of the day, I think most people that are fans.
The only issue was they were rarely ever healthy this year. One of those years for the Niners. Yeah.
Yeah, they got to do their research on that electric factory or whatever that everybody's talking about next to the practice facilities. But that's the thing. You look at the losses, and those are the three teams that outside of Tampa, obviously falling off towards the second half of the season. Los Angeles, they do what they do, and San Fran. I mean, still they made a deep run for what they had, right? So, I look at the losses there, and, that's where, I'm like, okay, so Seattle, their strength of schedule is great. And then, but you look at New England, they beat, from what I had written down here, they beat 3 top 5 defenses during their playoff run, leading up into the Super Bowl. So it's like, then it makes you think like, okay, so, but what they've done, like you said, they're playing their hottest ball right now, especially in the postseason when it matters, which is huge. But I think it comes down to, I had seen something as well that, and you hit on it, is how can we get the passing game going? Even if it's with the tight ends, that can open up, other parts of the field. Or, at the end of the day, if you can check down to running backs and they can get chunk yardage and stuff like that, like that's going to open up, taking, I guess, what the defense is going to give you. So if that can open up the playbook over time, I think that's the way the OC's got to look at it. Take what you can get and keep the drive going and stuff like that. I think Sam Darnold is finally, especially after, you look at, everybody talks about where he started with his career up to now, and, what happened last year in Minnesota. But, I think he's kind of finally proved to everybody like, hey, I can win the big games. I can lead a team in these big games, and they're here for a reason, obviously. And you look at New England too; they're here for a reason as well. So those were kind of the big, kind of key points I had. Honestly, there. Trying to think. On top of that, think for me, those were the kind of key pieces that I talked about. Writing down my notes and with some of my close friends, where we were kind of going back and forth on. So I'm gonna have to, like you said, I'm gonna have to take overall. I'm gonna take Seattle for the money line for sure. I just, unfortunately, I think with yes, New England's here for a reason. Drake May is a young quarterback that doesn't have that experience yet, and for me, I think experience is huge. Now I got to look at the trenches side of it. It's like both D lines are great, but New England's O line is not the best. Especially, I guess, if we compare it to Seattle as well. In that senses. So that's where I'm at there. I am going to take the Patriots on the spread though, because I definitely think they're going to keep it a close game. Vrabel's definitely going to have the defensive side ready, as long with the DC as well to keep it a close game. And I did see this cool stat that I think it was that the underdogs are 14-4 against the spread, and the past 5 Super Bowls the dogs have covered.
Yes,
So,
it's been an underdog. That's another thing that's worrisome. Like I can't bring myself to pick New England to win this game. That's why I laid the money line.
Yeah.
I actually think Seattle absolutely could cover, and this could be a 7, 10, even 14-point win for Seattle. But I'm not willing to bank on that totally. This could still be a game where New England is good enough with their defense to hang around and make this a 3-point game and a field goal game. And we've seen recent Super Bowls, aside from last year, when Philadelphia obviously ran away and hid from Kansas City. But aside from that, we've seen a lot of recent Super Bowls decided late in the fourth quarter. We saw the overtime Super Bowl with San Francisco and Kansas City, a couple of years ago. That's when Patrick Mahomes found Mecole Hardman for the game-winning touchdown. That great call by Jim Nantz, jackpot Kansas City, because the game was in Las Vegas. It was a great call. The game-winning touchdown by Nance. But so that's why I decided to play it. I never do this shit. I never lay a money line at minus 220 instead of laying the points. If I like the favorite, minus 4.5, 99% of the time I'm laying the points. But this is the Super Bowl. It's a well-coached Patriots team. You mentioned the underdog trend, ATS, the last few years in the Super Bowl. I just, for a rare instance, I'm deciding, let's just play it a little safer because we got dollars in play here.
Yeah.
Go Seattle money line, just asking them to win the game rather than laying the 4.5 and bank on them for sure winning by 5+.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it goes back to, I think both defenses, it's going to be a defensive game. And, I think it's going to turn into something where turnovers might come into play. And that's where, at the end of the day, I know Sam Darnold has been having to prove everybody, up to this point. And like I said, I think if anybody has any questions, I mean, outside of the Super Bowl, I think he's answered all the questions that everybody had, the question marks now. And it's the Drake May, where the way I look at it, it's like they're a great team. Moving forward, they're going to be great as well. That's where I'm at now. So I just don't know with his, obviously just his experience, that unfortunately in a game like this, that's where you look at young guys, position players, when they're talking on in interviews, podcasts, whatever, they're like, hey, they go to the vets and talk to those guys like, hey, what does that week look like going into the Super Bowl? What do I do? Do I change anything? Just give me tips. And, obviously I just overall I want to see a great game, but that's where I'm at with it. If when I've got to make these decisions, and I'm going to stick with the under as well for the total points. And the one I'm going to do as well is the first quarter under team points as well, or total points, just because the way I see it is
everybody's first quarter just trying to under and full game under.
Yes.
Like both of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just because the way I see it is everybody's trying to feel each other out.
Yeah. I definitely think lower scoring early, and most Super Bowls, Ryan, I bet the prop every year, second half higher scoring than first half. It's an available prop, and most years I will bet it, and I'm probably going to bet it again this year. So 45.5, the overall, the full game total. Under in the first quarter, I see right now currently at looks like 7.5. Yeah.
7.5. Yeah. And like that's exactly like what you said for the second half. It's the first quarter or so they feel it out, and they just want to see everybody's playing it safe. They don't want to make mistakes and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the mindset is for me as well. So that's kind of where for all the bets that I have. And like I said, I'm going to keep looking. There's a couple, or I know for the sacks bet, you can go by player, and there's 3 or 4 guys. There's 3 D linemen, I think, with 7 sacks for Seattle, and then there's 1 guy with 6, and it's is it Dexter? No, Demarcus Lawrence.
Yes, DeMarcus Lawrence, former Cowboy, who's been great
Former
with
Cowboy.
the Seattle Seahawks. Yep, excellent.
Yeah, so I don't know if I want to flirt to just picking one guy. I'd rather go for, a team sack total, but so I'll have to keep looking there. But that's, like I said, that's one of something that I want to try to get just because of the D line going against the weaker O line of New England. So, and then I know I had mentioned this one to you that I got to throw out there that I'm sure most people don't touch, but it's the kicker bets.
Well, of course, I was gonna get there if you didn't. You beat
okay.
me. Andy Borregales and Jason Myers. We got to talk about these two guys, the kickers for their respective teams. How do you see it going for them?
Yeah, so I'm a fan of both. So Andy, actually, I trained a little bit with his older brother that kicked at the U prior to Andy getting there. So Jose's a great kicker as well, and Andy obviously, he's proved himself correct. So, and then I look at Jason Myers, he's the vet. Normally he's my fantasy kicker and stuff like that. So because
he's been around a while.
He's and he doesn't miss and stuff like that. So I put a little fun stat I found in here, and this was the Patriots have allowed the second fewest kicking points per game this year. However, the Seahawks have scored the most kicking points per game. So Jason Myers has made the second most field goals this season. So what I'm thinking to do is take him 2+ field goals on Sunday. And then what was his? Let me see real quick if it's changed. What is his over points for just his kicking points again?
I will do a check on this for you as well, because I remember mentioning them with I think we mentioned them with Mark Leggio, the Ticat kicker, when I did the show with him earlier this week. Yeah, 8.5 is the kicking points number for Jason Myers. It's 6.5 for Andy Borregales. Yep.
Yeah, so I was gonna take Jason over 8.5, and I was gonna take him to make a 50+ yard field goal at +200. So because I think I'd put in here. Oh, what was his stats? He's 9 for 12 this season from 50+. It's going to be, more than likely great weather game. I think
it's going to be great weather. No issues at all. None at all.
Yeah.
Kicking or passing. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah. So I always got to do something for kicking, and that's the side I want to go to with Jason Myers there and take him on a couple there with the 50+ for him at +200. And like you said, over 8.5. for Jason on his points, and I'll probably take him 2+ field goals. So
love it. Good stuff. So there we go. And plus, it coincides. It correlates with you liking the unders. Because if you like the unders, it means more field goals, less touchdowns. Yep. So there you go. It correlates perfectly. Looking at kicker points involving both of them. So you're like me. We both think Seattle wins this game. Both a little hesitant to automatically assume they're going to cover the -4.5 here. In this game, it could be a 3-point game, but it could be 7, and that would get the job done. But I just don't want to take it to chance. I just read the money lines at least at -220 is usually bigger price than I'll typically lay with a money line price for any sport. But in this case, I'll make an exception. I personally it's a comfort issue. I feel a lot more comfortable Seattle money line than the -4.5 here.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, because at the end of the day, like I said, I think when I look at a 4-quarter game, Seattle's going to pull away with this and, get the win. But I'm just like, New England's going to keep it a close game is how I feel it's going to go. And it's going to be something that comes down to, the 4th quarter, something in this situation. So, yeah.
There you go. Great stuff. Can't say enough how fun this was, Ryan. Awesome stuff doing this interview with you. Every guest we have is great, just talking football. The first-time guests like you today, in this case, talking about their football background, and of course, talking NFL football, in this case, the Super Bowl. So great job, Ryan. Before we wrap it up, though, as always, custom tradition on Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, we end the show with a best bet from the guest. So if you had to pick a best bet from some of the stuff you mentioned, the one you like the most, what would it be?
Oh, geez, best bet. Let me look over it again real quick, see which one I'm thinking. Oh,
Welcome
I
to
don't
my.
know.
I'm always I'm always making. It's always tough for me to decide. Trust me, and I do a
Yeah.
million of these shows, and I got to break.
Well, and
you
that's the
at
thing. I'm
all of
like,
them.
do people want to hear like? Because for me, I guess I want to say like a kicking best bet, but I'm gonna say probably for majority of anybody that would watch this, it's never gonna. They're gonna say a kicking bet as the best bet. Is no way.
Let me just put it this way, Ryan. It's whatever one you like the most. I don't give two
Yeah,
shits if it's a kicking prop, a defensive prop, special teams, running back
yeah,
prop, quarterback prop, the side, the total.
yeah.
You like best?
Um, I'm gonna have to take Jason Myers over 8.5.
You like that? I think now
Yeah,
because you've made that best bet, I'll probably bet that. That was not on my radar, but I do think, it's got potential to get there because I do think Seattle, is going to be able to move the ball in position enough
yeah,
in this game to be able to put Jason Myers in a spot to get to that 9 points that he needs. And it is worth noting, 4 of the last 5 Seattle games, Jason Myers has had 7+ kicking.
yeah,
Actually, in 4 straight, he's had 7+.
yeah.
And in
And I
2
think
of those, he got over 8.5. But this is the Super Bowl. And
yeah,
sometimes, with such high stakes, maybe there'll be that 1 or 2 extra times when Seattle has the football in New England territory, it gets to 4th down, and Mike McDonald opts for the field goal instead.
yeah,
Keep that in mind.
So, and I think he averaged 10 points this whole season. So I think
Yep.
about that, and I think, like you said, Seattle, I don't see him having an issue getting it into field goal territory. And if I'm anybody on that staff, I think he's proven that he can be trusted to go out there and and it's, I think if Seattle's defense, the way I kind of envision it is them forcing Drake May to make mistakes or just not get into a rhythm to where it's more opportunities for Seattle to have possession on offense and just make plays and get into more field goal opportunities, and obviously hopefully scoring touchdowns as well. But I'll take the field goals too.
Good stuff. I love it. Love the breakdown. Everyone's got a different way of approaching it and people
Yeah.
previewing it, things they like, angles they like with certain. Welcome to my world. Doing this
Yep.
every day for a full-time career. It's just
Couldn't
finding
imagine.
different angles. It's just, and everyone has a different way of going about it. That's the amazing thing. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of everyday serious sports bettors and handicappers. And it's crazy how many people have different philosophies and ways of going about it. It's really wild when you see it.
Yeah. This is the true beauty of it.
Yeah. There's not one specific way to do it. There's not one specific way to be successful with it either. And that's what's the beauty of certainly this industry that now I've been in somehow for 15 years. Can't believe
Oh my gosh.
that long, over a decade. But Ryan, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, one of many guest spots that we're doing this week to preview Super Bowl 60. Ryan, anything you want to add before we wrap up the show?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be able to come on here and talk football with you and talk about the Super Bowl. With this exciting week coming up in the game, unfortunately, we know that football is coming to an end, at least NFL football, but make the most of the week, talk sports, talk bets. And, I think at the end of the day, just enjoy the games the way I'm looking at it. And like I said, I appreciate the opportunity for this.
Well, let me tell you, my football off season is as shorter than anybody else, is shorter than everybody else's for the most part, because CFL starts in June. I am a Ticat season ticket holder and fan, and I handicap and bet it. I actually handicap and bet the UFL, and that's right around the corner. The Spring League, that's going to start at the end of March. So basically, my football off season's a month and a half, and I'll be back at it.
Oh, that's awesome! But then
in the UFL, which I am looking forward to for sure.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I definitely going to start getting into that, and I've got a couple buddies that just got signed for UFL teams. So,
there you go. And you'll be happy to pass along some great info and insight to your new friend here, Ian Cameron. I know it.
Oh yes, I can do that for you. I got you.
Man, great stuff. Ryan Jones, ladies and gentlemen, great show with him here on Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. For Ryan Jones, I'm Ian Cameron. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button on your way out, and thanks for joining us for this special NFL Super Bowl preview edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy.